We're going to go ahead and get started. If you can make your way to your seats, that would be great. We've only given each of our presenters 30 minutes, so I don't want to take away any of the time that they're going to need to give you some great information. Well, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today. My name is Dimity Orlett. I work here at the Bar Association as Assistant Counsel and CLE Director. Terry Patterson, Terry's to my left here, Terry's General Counsel at the Bar Association. We've been looking forward to today for a long time. About 2 years ago, we did a program very similar to this and wanted to bring it back because we were really happy just with the contributions of the speakers and the group and thought it was beneficial. So we're really happy to be here today. We have some great sponsors and exhibitors who have helped us out. So you had a nice breakfast this morning, and we'll have lunch later today and a chance to talk a little bit more informally. So we appreciate that. We also appreciate the support of the Cincinnati Bar Foundation. It's their grant that's made it possible to provide you with the 2 great books you have. Quite frankly, just the price of the books alone would have caused us to have to charge about triple the admission price. So with that grant, makes this program a lot more possible for us to provide to you the way we are. Terry's going to tell you a little bit more about the genesis of the program and the goals of it, but I just wanted to point out that we have 8 great attorneys here to present to you today. They're great at what they do, but they've also taken, this half day to be with you. There's a lot, I think, of variation in their practice areas, but also some of them started out in a solo or small firm setting. Some of them have varied backgrounds, so I think you'll really appreciate that and the different perspectives that brings to their presentations. Just wanted to tell you quickly a little bit more about our sponsoring groups because I'm hoping at the end of the day, if you didn't already, you'll have a chance to meet up with some of them. Our lunch sponsor is Office Key. When it's time for you to hang a shingle, consider partnering with Office Key. They have 5 locations to choose from and can help you widen your presence throughout the city. We also have 4 exhibiting groups. We have Intelligent Office, and they offer phone solutions so that you can get help with frequently asked questions, intake, and things like that to help free you up to do your work. We also have a Legal Biz Success, and actually Peggy Grinke is the owner of that. Peggy's one of our presenters today, so you'll hear more from her. She specializes in management, in operations, online marketing, technology, accounting, and is a wealth of information. We also have Kahuna Accounting. They offer outsourced bookkeeping for solo and small firms and can help you have peace of mind on your financials. I wanted to mention that a few of the groups do have giveaways, so feel free to drop a business card later. In particular, also, I almost forgot LexisNexis. They are giving away Apple TV. I know most of you know Lexis's services, but please be sure to stop by there as well. So I will stop prattling on, but I'm going to turn it over to Terry to tell you more about the substance of what we're going to get into today. Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Dimity. Good morning. Thanks for being here. If you don't like the unusual seating arrangement, you can blame me. It's my fault. The genesis of this program is that about 3 years ago, Dimity and I realized that the market, the economy, was really difficult especially for solo lawyers and for new lawyers, for law students, and it just was getting worse. And I really felt like the organized bar needed to step up and address some of these issues, and we really struggled for some months to figure out what kind of program we wanted to put on. We did it about 1.5 years ago for the first time. It was called Flying Solo, and I think, to me, I wanted folks to meet each other and kind of see each other and not just sit in rows, and I really didn't want a panel of speakers. I'm so tired of panels of speakers. And we've got 7 or 8 great speakers today, and they're really to be commended because although they've only got 30 minutes apiece, we asked them to stay for the entire time. So they've really committed about 5 hours to this program, each one of them. And we wanted them to sit with you and make themselves available to chat with you. And that was kind of the concept of this program. I want to say that our objective today is not to convince everybody in the room to open a solo practice. Yeah, absolutely not. We're making a lot of information available to you. We're giving you the Foonberg book. We're giving you John Mueller's book on trust accounts, which is absolutely critical. And Ginger, one of our speakers, is going to scare the heck out of you when we talk about trust accounts. But what we really want to present to you today is the questions that our speakers think you have to answer for each one of yourselves each one of yourselves, should I do this? Can I do this? And that's really what this is about. So it's a little bit of a difficult approach for us to take that tone, but it's really to give you the information of, can I do this? Should I do this? I got to move on here because we're going to strict schedule. Nick Zingarelli is going to do the first presentation, getting started and business planning. Nick.
There we go. Can everybody hear me okay? I don't know if I need this microphone, but they told me I need it for the purposes of that video camera back there. So although you can hear me, the people on that video otherwise can't. So I'll do my best to try to stay back here. What Terry was saying dovetails exactly into what it is I want to talk about here today, because some of the concepts I'm going to present you with are intended to scare you if you haven't thought about them. It's intended to be an eye-opener, because most lawyers, I mean, there's a saying that most lawyers are terrible business people. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's not what we were taught in law school. We're taught to think gray, whereas the business side of things is more of a black and white and numbers type of thing. So this is intended to kind of get you outside of your comfort zone. The can element of whether you should open your own practice is not in question. Every single person in here can open their own practice. You have a law degree, you are capable of practicing, you can do it. The question is, should you do it? And that brings in some economic and business principles that we need to think about here today. To take away some of the fear factor on this, I did not graduate with a business degree. I'm a philosophy major from UC. I started out in the business college and couldn't stand it, and then transferred to A&S. So you do not need a business degree to do it, although being married to a business graduate definitely is helpful. So I advise that if you have that at your disposal. Can anybody here help me out with, let's start with, who here already has their own small practice, solo firm opened up? Okay, and then everybody else is kind of thinking about it, and then maybe we've got a few law students in the room here who aren't quite there, trying to figure out where to go. Great. Good mix and match here. So in the materials that you have there, I believe that you have my table of contents and a couple of key things from my business plan that I created, which I'll be referring to as we talk about here today. That'll give away a few of the things that I'm going to ask now. Who can tell me some of the key things that go into a business plan? Anybody? You don't need to raise your hand. Feel free to shout it out. Financials. Okay. So like profit and loss, cash flow. What else? Taxes. Taxes, part of the cash flow statement and the profit and loss statement, depending upon how you're organizing your entity and how you're going to be paying yourself. Something that I think Don Swartz is going to be touching on here a little bit later as far as choosing your entity formation. What else? Understanding your target. Yes, absolutely. Figuring out who it is that you are trying to market to, what type of business. So why do you need a business plan? There's three key things that I think your business plan is going to help you with. The first is to help you decide if your law firm will financially succeed, to allow you to crunch the numbers of what your minimum bottom line has to be each month in order to make your firm financially viable. And that means different things to different people. Some of you are going to go virtual office, which means you may be able to go low overhead, and you may not have as big of a number as somebody who is going to go with a conventional brick and mortar office. Of course, that goes into play in deciding what type of place that you may end up choosing to hang your shingle to begin with. Quick plug for Office Key here. They actually do have very affordable rates. It's where we're actually getting ready to move our satellite office to with the new location they've got in Westchester. And you don't have to have a brick and mortar with them as far as a fixed office. They will let you do kind of a floating hours type of thing. So that's a good flexible way to do it. To answer the biggest questions facing your firm, who is it that we are trying to appeal to? What is it exactly that I am selling? Am I going to be a general practice, taking everything that comes in the door, or am I going to be more laser focused, trying to just serve one particular type of practice area, expand out from there potentially? And another thing is to make you more attractive to a potential financier. When I opened my practice, we actually opened with a small business loan behind us because I was the primary breadwinner. for my family, and me no longer having a salary was going to be potentially catastrophic to our family if this thing didn't work out. So we needed to have a good cushion behind us, and we needed to plan for the business not making money starting out. In fact, if you look at my profit and loss forecast, and again, this is straight out of the business plan that I used for when I got my SBA loan, the first 2 months we planned to make absolutely nothing. The third month we planned on only making $700. So we planned on operating at a loss when our firm opened up, and I advise you all to do the same. We ended up doing better than we thought we were going to do, which is always a happy surprise. Somewhat of that was based upon the type of practice that I do, which is consumer and small business bankruptcy. If any of you have read a paper in the last 6 years, 2008 was a pretty good year to open a bankruptcy firm because you pretty much could open a firm, say, hey, I'm here, and there was more than enough business to go around. If you can find that type of practice area, let me know, because bankruptcies are way down. So, we're all trying to get creative now. Many business lenders require a business plan before they will take you seriously. It's also going to be something that will distinguish you from the other people that are applying for that same pot of money that everybody's going to. Most business loans you can apply for with a relatively simple 2 to 3 page application that will then have you do a very quick and dirty financial statement. Yeah, that lets them know kind of the numbers as to whether or not you're a good credit risk. But that business plan is going to be about a 50-page advertisement for them to say, this is why we're going to go beyond what you see in this application here. This is why I'm going to be different than the other money you're going to loan out here, and why you're absolutely going to be able to recoup the investment that you're going to make in me. Foonberg's rule of thumb. Foonberg is the gentleman who wrote that wonderful Bible-looking book that you have in front of you there, which I encourage you all to not necessarily read cover to cover because it is a lot to take in. It reads more like a reference manual where you go from one spot to the other to the other. The engagement letter that I use in my own practice for hourly type of fee work, I took almost exactly from there and then crafted it to my practice. But Foonberg's rule of thumb is 1 year of expenses in the bank before you open your own practice. Again, means different things to different people. If you're not the sole breadwinner, maybe you don't need to take any type of a salary or a draw out of the business, and that's not something that you have to rely upon. But for other people, if you don't work, you don't eat. So you got to, again, build that into when you're setting up how it is that you're planning on starting or possibly kind of relaunching your business, depending on where you're at as you sit here today. So some of the key things that go into a business plan, one is your business goals. Why is it that you want to own your own practice? And you got to go beyond the financial here. Obviously, we're all here to open a practice to make money in some form or fashion. If you just want to do pro bono work, trust me, there's more than enough to go around. You don't need your own practice for that. But really get beyond that. Think about, is it autonomy? Is it because you want to create something that is just yours? Is it that you want to be able to go in early and leave early? Is it because you want to be able to take days off, spend extra time with your family when you want to? Really get specific and detailed so that you can then start to have something motivating you to do this beyond just money, because there's lots of ways to make money. Future trends, something that we alluded to earlier. What is a great product and service now may not be a great product and service later on down the line, and you have to project out for that, which is another one of the reasons why when you see there that profit and loss and cash flow forecast is not for 1 year, that's a 3-year projection. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is because you are going to start out slow. It's just the nature of the beast. And then you're expected to kind of build slowly and steadily upward and upward and upward. But again, it's also then projecting for, okay, how is my firm going to evolve relative to the type of service that I'm providing, relative to my overhead, relative to whether or not I'm adding a support staff type of person to me at some point, or do I need somebody coming out of the gate because I might be more type of labor-intensive type of work and digging through discovery where it may be a better investment to use somebody else with me. Very difficult to say. Again, depends on what type of practice you're opening. Again, with the future trend side of things, that's something in the bankruptcy practice where, bankruptcy is still our bread and butter, but we've expanded out from that here over the past few years because not everybody wants bankruptcy anymore, but a lot of people still have bankruptcy-related problems. So we're doing more foreclosure defense and debt workouts and direct debt negotiation settlements. So again, think creative, try to evolve with your clientele, try to see in the future best as you can. Risk analysis. Who and where is your competition? Some of the practice areas that you get into, they are very much driven towards the convenience of the client. Some clients will drive wherever it is that you happen to be in order to get their needs met. Others are, how much gas do I have to spend to be able to get to where you're at? So setting up that to, again, be attractive to your clientele, and if you've got 20 other people that do exactly what it is that you do that are all surrounding you, is that necessarily the best way to go? Is there an underserved part of the region that maybe it's a better place to set up for? Again, depends on what you're trying to do. When does your business come in? Some practices are very seasonal. Some practices are very feast or famine. Contingency fee work, of course, when it's good, oh boy is it good. But when it's bad, those experts still need to have those checks written to them. The court reporters still need to have that checks written to them. That was a huge surprise for me when I went into a partnership with a friend of mine a few years ago. Big surprise where it was just waiting for those cases to settle. And again, it's definitely a risk-reward type of business. So definitely make sure that you're comfortable with the gamble and having that cushion of money beneath you if that's a direction you're going to go through. Again, bankruptcy is, believe it or not, a very seasonal type of practice. We do the majority of our business between January and May every year. Any guesses as to why? Tax refunds. You got it. This is the stuff that people probably should have done 6 months ago, but they couldn't afford to pay their lawyer to allow them to be able to do it 6 months ago. So again, you got to recognize the trends that are out there. A resume is a key part of your business plan. You are selling yourself as to why you are professionally ready to be able to take this step. And again, whether you're fresh out of law school or whether you got 20 years of experience under your belt, you have a law degree, so you are capable of being able to do this, but you are still distinguishing yourself. Maybe it's beyond your experience. Maybe it's what it is that you did while you were in law school. Maybe you had some externship or co-op types of experiences. Again, sell yourself to the people that are potentially going to be reading your business plan, but again, also sell yourself to yourself as to why this makes sense for you. A financial statement. So again, that's something that's built into the conventional type of application that you have to submit for any type of small business lending, but you want to go deeper to that. You want to convince them that you are financially viable and that even though your firm may succeed, that you don't have other issues that are going on alongside you there that may be taking away from that investment money to possibly go towards, you know, the credit card balance that was built up or what have you. And some of the exercises that you may go through on this may say, you know what, now isn't the right time. I got to get my own financial house in order here before I'm ready to make this next step. So sometimes the answer isn't no, the answer is not now. And it can be an exercise that allows you to be able to evaluate from some other different types of perspectives. And again, that's a good thing. I had probably about 2 or 3 false starts before I actually went and did this because I said, you know, now's not the time. I'm not there yet. No, not quite yet. But it was when I actually did the complete business plan that I said, yep, I got to take a leap of faith. Let's do this thing. Even if you're not borrowing money, it allows you to take financial inventory of your life. What do you own? What do you owe? What do you need to make on a monthly basis to keep this thing going? Every dollar that you make from this business is yours. That's one of the best things about owning your own practice. One of the worst things about owning your own practice is that every dollar that you make is yours. So it's all coming from you in some form or fashion, and you got to be prepared for that. A sales revenue projection. So you're going to be projecting your sales revenue, where your firm gets its clients, and how much income that you're going to generate from that area, and that is what then goes into the very top line of that profit and loss statement that's on there as to how you're projecting your funds going forward. That's how much you think you're actually going to be bringing in the door every month before you account for any expenses. Again, what kind of practice are you going to have? A general practice definitely gets clients in the door. Your practice is going to make money a lot sooner than it would if, as opposed to if you go more of a laser-focused type of specialized type of firm, but there's a lot less control over the cases that you may take on. And that's something that you have to answer for yourself, again, going beyond the financial element of this. Are there practice areas that you just don't want to do, that you may be morally opposed to? Are you prepared to handle a criminal defense client that walks in the door that may be accused of something that is considered morally reprehensible, but that person still needs a good legal defense because they are entitled to it going into court? Again, you got to wrap your mind around that. And a general practice definitely does make sense for people that are coming straight out of law school, because you don't have that laser-focused type of practice area to build off of yet. And that may be what you end up defaulting to, depending upon what type of work experience that you may have obtained while you were in law school. Specialization allows you to develop a field of expertise. You could end up becoming the guy or woman in your particular type of area, where then everybody in this room ends up referring whatever it is that you do better than anybody else, that particular area of work. And in this community, especially in Cincinnati, attorneys refer to other attorneys without question. It is the best client that you will get coming in the door is from all the people that you see around you, all the other attorneys that you know in this community. One of the best things a lawyer can know is what they shouldn't take on and who they can send somebody to. That client is going to thank you for that, because now you've put them in good hands. That attorney's going to remember you for that. They'll reciprocate in the future if they trust your legal abilities. So again, that aids in the referral source development, but it may limit the cases that you get in the early going. So unless you got a book of business that you're bringing with you into your new practice, you may be waiting and waiting and waiting for that phone to ring for a little while. So again, things that you got to balance out. You got to make it work for where it is that you're coming from. Are you transactional or litigation focused? If you're transactional, people pay you to perform service, you perform service, and that's basically the end of that. Whereas if you're a litigation, more plaintiff side type of focus, again, it's a contingency fee-based work in most circumstances, which means you are waiting for the outcome before it is that you get paid. For the law students that are here, law students, if I could see a show of hands. 2. Okay, we got a handful. All right, I'm going to tell you something that may or may not be a surprise. The number of strict liability cases with clear damages that will walk into your office with a heavily insured defendant that cannot wait to settle are few and far between. Great American Ballpark did not get Great American on the side of that ballpark by paying out a lot of checks. So that's something that, again, and everybody is going after that same case. Even if you're a transactional attorney, if that heavily insured strict liability case comes through your door, you're probably going to take us, because you can probably figure it out. Maybe you can co-counsel with somebody else that can help you through that. But again, those are almost non-existent. Trust me, I did it. It's tough. If it's transactional, there's going to be clients that are going to stiff you. It's just the way it goes. It's what I call involuntary pro bono. It's just how it goes. You know, people say, "Oh," and your heart's gonna melt for some of these people. Say, "All right, I'm gonna take you on faith here. Let's do this thing. I know you're gonna pay me when you can," and then their phone number all of a sudden stops working. It's gonna happen. Prepare for it. Solo practitioner or a small firm, this isn't something I'm going to get too into. This is something that Don is going to more focus on in his presentation. Think about whether you value your autonomy, whether you can financially make it work just on your own. Is there enough work to make more than one lawyer busy? Are you ready to marry somebody else? And that is the best way that I can describe it, is a professional marriage. Fortunately, when my partnership broke off, he is still one of my best friends. That is a rarity, because most times when you come out of a divorce, people aren't shaking hands at the end and saying, "Oh, well, we gave it a good run. That was how this actually worked." And I mean, we were married to each other. It's funny, on my iPhone speed dial, my law partner's number was first, then my wife's was second. I'm pretty sure I talked to him more during that partnership. So profit and loss, another key component of your business plan there. And I'd like you all to look at the profit and loss statement that's there. You know, you've got a lot of fixed, and then you've got some variable expenses there, and this may or may not fit to your particular type of practice. This came specifically from worksheets that are available in a book out there that is called how to write a business plan. It is by Nolo. The ISBN number is at the end of my outline. If this is something that you're thinking about doing, again, you do not need an advanced business degree to do this. It is very walk you through step by step. They give you a DVD in the back of this book that has these worksheets. They're Excel worksheets. I still use these worksheets in my profit and loss and cash flow planning in my business today. So the profit and loss forecast, again, you've got your rent. You got to pay rent every month unless you're going virtual. Marketing and advertising, again, could depend upon whether or not you're doing an initial blast. So that could be something that's more part of your capital spending plan, or you may be building in month to month, depending on whether you're doing web, are you doing yellow pages, are you doing TV ads. Tough to say. Again, depends on what you're doing. Insurance, that's going to be something you're going to pay for probably every month, if not quarterly. Professional liability insurance, general liability insurance, if you are going to have your own office. Accounting and books. Are you going to keep your own books, or are you going to have somebody do your books for you? Again, you got to know yourself better than anybody else. The value of a good bookkeeper is immeasurable because that's what they do, and it's really not a huge investment to be able to do, but can save you a ton of money and time in the long run. Your interest expense, something you want to build in each month. And again, that's different than the principal component potentially of the loan that you may be taking out. That comes out on your cash flow side of things because interest is deductible, but the principal that you're paying back is not. So that's why you've got some things that are listed here, but then on the cash flow side of things, things like, oh, I don't know, your draw, those are things that are not deductible unless you are paying yourself as an employee. Your depreciation, again, an accounting measure, consult with a good accountant. Whether or not you have somebody that keeps your books for you or not, you want to have a good accountant unless you are a CPA. This is one of those things where you cannot know what you don't know. The tax laws are constantly changing, and frankly, you could be hurting yourself from the deductions that you might be leaving on the table otherwise. So you want to build in an at least once a year type of thing for paying your accountant for doing your taxes for you. Your utilities, again, depends on whether or not you're brick and mortar. Telephone, that might be your cell phone. If you're going that de minimis starting out, everybody needs internet. Office supplies, that's something that's going to step up as your business steps up. So you want to have a steadily upward tracking thing on that because you'll spend more on paper, you'll spend more on envelopes. It's just the way that it goes. Client comforts, are you going to have magazines in your waiting room? Are you going to provide coffee, water? You want to make sure all of those things are in there. Professional development, if you're working for a firm now, sorry guys, they paid for that CLE before, now it's on you. You got to make sure you're going to those seminars, not just to make sure you keep your CLE up, but again, for the networking component of it, again, getting those referral sources, it's the best client referrals that you'll get coming in the door. Your parking, your postage, and then just your catch-all miscellaneous. You want to have a, oh, I didn't think of that component built in. You'd always like your profit and loss to come in under as opposed to over, where you're saying, shoot, where am I going to find that money this month, which it happens. But the cash flow forecast, business starts out slow, the vendors still want to be paid. What the cash flow forecast really does is it lets you determine where your low point is when you are planning on starting out losing money in the initial going. That's what really says to you, this is the amount of money that I need to have in the bank to back me up. And then if you end up getting to that month and you're doing better than you were, maybe you're looking to reinvest it into your business. Maybe you're giving yourself a little bonus. Maybe you're paying back that business loan a little bit faster. Tough to say, but again, you want to make sure that you are planning for that low point because your low point is probably not going to be in the first month, the second month, maybe even the fourth, fifth, or sixth month. You could be losing money for a while. That doesn't mean your business isn't succeeding. It just means it's taken a little bit longer for people to find out that you're here. Your capital spending, that's your initial investments. Those are the things that aren't necessarily going to recur even on a monthly or quarterly basis, but the things you got to do just to get started. So your initial office supplies. When I first decided I wanted to do this, my wife and I walked through an Office Depot, and we just made a list of everything it is that we thought that we needed, and then we didn't buy anything that day, but we knew, okay, it was going to be about $1,100 to get our business up and functional. It was a fun window shopping type of experience. I encourage you all to do it. It's the most fun you'll ever have shopping for pens. Office furniture, again, fixed assets, something you won't have to buy too many times over the course of your career until you start expanding potentially. Your computer, your software, depending upon what type of practice you're going to have. If you're research intensive, are you doing the initial Lexus type of investment where you're doing a year buy coming out of the gate? Are you doing more of a month-to-month on that? Could decide whether or not it's in your capital spending versus your profit and loss. Your initial marketing and advertising. Are you doing an advertising blast? Are you doing an open house when you start out? Which is a great way to go, especially if you provide an open bar. People love to come and get a free beer, a glass of wine, and then come and then shake your hand and figure out where your business is at. It's an invaluable way to get things started. And again, your financial cushion, that's going into your capital spending as well for, again, determining that set nut of money that you've got to have to be able to really get this thing going. I'm going to start talking fast now because my half hour is almost up, but I will be sitting here, and also all of my contact information is at the top of my outline. I encourage you to call me or email me if you have questions. I will be more than happy to sit down with you, have a quick phone call, maybe even grab a bite to eat or a beer together where we can exchange ideas. Marketing plan is going to let people know that you're here. We talked about the open house, direct mail. A website is essential. Signing up for lawyer referral service, great way to go to get some cases coming in the door. Another thing about that is that could allow you to get yourself into a practice area that you may not necessarily be in now. Lawyer referral service has attorneys that are then backing you up that you can then go to as part of taking that case. No, I'm mixing my lawyer referral service with my volunteer lawyers project. VLP, if you sign up for those pro bono cases, can give you those experience with then having a backup lawyer with you. We're actually just starting to get into domestic relations ourselves. We took on a wounded warrior project type of thing. We've got a support lawyer coming with us. Again, great way to get the experience. Your personnel plan, when are you going to hire somebody? Your business description, that's just kind of describing, why your business does fill a need. What are the stats that back you up? Your problem statement, that's your elevator speech, why your business fills a need. Summarizes the key points of your business. Your business plan summary, that's only going to be if you are applying for a loan. We talked about how you write a business plan. But the one thing I'll take, if you take nothing else from this, other than the Foonberg book here today, at the end of the day, though, you're running a business. Please make sure you treat it like one. Thank you very much.